and welcome to the Mancunian Candidates here on Fab Radio International and YouTube. My name's Paul Ripley, and that geezer over there is
Mike Royce. And this show, as you probably gathered, if you're watching a politics show tonight, you realise that there is only going to be one major topic of conversation. We had lots of stuff planned. We're going to talk about the lockdown. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. But life sometimes throws you almost a 9/11 type of event, and you've got to roll with it. So we're going to get stuck into that in a minute. Thank you for sticking with us over Christmas. We've been a lot of people watching the channel. We've had a lot of views. They're nearly 150,000 views on the channel. It's amazing. We've had a little bit of feedback. So before we begin the actual show, Richard's family have been complaining about the Pentagon just announcing that they've halting the transition of China Joe, as they're calling him. He will no longer receive security briefings due to his compromised position with China, Russia and Iran. And this gentleman goes on to say that this is feedback that we've been getting while we were off.
Who's he talking about?
Joe Biden. He's saying this individual's saying that once the evidence of his connections with China is known, Congress and Vice President Pence will certify President Trump for a second term after he's declared martial law to stop Black Lives Matter, Antifa and anarchist thugs from destroying America. Well, we're going to be dealing with anarchist thugs destroying America. And Hard Fordlin says 2020 Trump, if Trump leaves the White House, America will never be great again. If fraudsters enter the White House, America will never ever be great again. About Brexit, it's sheep we're up against. That's a good name, that. And you can imagine what he's going to say, and you'd be absolutely right. He says, what a pair of knobs. They must think that all this insanity is about a virus that has killed 1 in 100,000 of the population. He's basically making out that we don't know what we're talking about, covering COVID like that. There's a little bit more of that. John Jackson's actually saying something nice. Good to see and hear there are some intelligent people in the UK, and that's where, in response to our Brexit coverage, and it also with respect to Donald Trump, we've got Ego 0117 who says, you Brits don't know, just worry about your royals. Looperman, this is the last one. No. We've got other things to talk about with that. We'll have to do a royals show at some point. Looperman says, I've actually taken this one off our comments on the site because without someone reading it in context like we do, I don't want to be doing propaganda that makes out that COVID's not doing any harm to people. It says COVID is real but is almost harmless. Conservatives won't let Boris do another UK lockdown at the start of January 2021. Never. So he wrote this on our website 2 weeks ago in response to us predicting there'd be a lockdown at the beginning of January. Pair of idiots, don't know what you're talking about. You are going to feel really stupid on your show when this doesn't happen. I can't wait to see you have to apologise when it does not happen.
Well, there's no words there, is there?
Oh, there is. Ballend, dickhead, lots of words.
Well, there is, I suppose so.
So let's begin our coverage.
Let me say this though first, Mike.
Go on.
On this show, we said there will be an attempted coup in America. We talked about it, it's out there, it's on the videos.
Yep.
And what happened last night was an attempted coup without a shadow of a doubt about Trump playing a game which he thought he'd win.
Yeah.
The latest news at the moment is there's a possibility he may be impeached. I doubt it. Possibility of it.
Well, we go into the aftermath at the end. We're going to the aftermath at the end because there's a few things that people are not talking about. Like there wasn't just one person died. There was more than that. But we'll get into that at the very end. I mean, obviously a lot of people were watching the news. And we predicted two things in the run-up to Christmas. One, that this guy, before he went, he was definitely up for trying a coup. And people feedback we were getting was, they're a bit over the top. A lot of Americans thought we were talking for our arse, And we also predicted that we'd be in lockdown in the UK by around about the 5th or 6th of January. Once in a while it would be good if we were right about something good. We're always right and it's always something bad. So the news yesterday was very, very difficult to watch for me, and I'm sure you felt the same. It felt surreal, and to capture that, we're just going to show you a clip, and this is an ex-Fox News presenter who's literally freaking out when all of this started to play out yesterday.
Think of this. It's a Wednesday afternoon in Washington. The Senate is in session to process the peaceful transition of power. The President of the United States is tweeting, "Stop the steal," and then tweeting, "Stand down." And as this is underway, we do not see or hear from the President of the United States. It is unthinkable in the history of America that A, the Capitol would be taken over and occupied by the people, and certainly that B, the President of the United States will not have anything to say about it. He is at the White House. He is inside the people's house. These are his supporters who've come to this event today where he spoke to say, we don't accept this transfer of power, where the president has said, I will not concede in the peaceful transfer of power, which is an example to the entire world. And now his followers have overtaken the people's halls, and we have not heard from the president. Where are we as a nation? We have witnessed this road of refusal to accept reality, of lie after lie after lie about the state of play in America, the lies about fraud, the lies about dead people voting, lie after lie after lie that have created this mob that believes that the government has been overtaken, that the election was fraudulent. The president allows it to go on. And when they literally overtake Capitol Hill, we don't hear from him. Had you parachuted in after a trip to another planet, this would be absolutely unbelievable. The Capitol has been overtaken and the president is nowhere to be found.
Yeah, it's hard to get your head around it.
The Capitol has been overtaken and the president is nowhere to be found.
Well, we knew where he was earlier on in the day because we'll have footage that shows that later, but he started this. I mean, when you talk about incitement, there are different laws. Sometimes with Britain and the UK, with Britain and America, you have different laws. And quite a lot of the laws, if you looked at it as a Venn diagram, a lot of the laws are very similar, and incitement is very similar here as there. All you've got to do is give instructions that are likely to cause people to commit criminal offences. You don't have to instruct them and go to... If I tell some people, go to Paul Ripley's house and set fire to his garage, that's clear cut. But it doesn't have to be that clear cut. If I tell them all these bad things you've done, make them really angry and go, I think you should go and pay him a visit at his house and make him aware you're not happy. I'm not telling them to do anything, but the likelihood is they're going to do something bad, and I will be responsible for starting that chain of events off. I don't see how you can't say Trump didn't cause yesterday.
Well, it's clear. It was absolutely clear. Not only in his speech, but his tweets. And in reality, certainly the last 2 years and the last 12 months, has been doubling down on it.
Yeah.
He's been talking about this date now for 3 months.
He has. He's been fixated on it. He was at first fixated on the Electoral College meeting in December. Yeah. He keeps moving the goalposts, doesn't he? First he was fixated on winning the election. Then he was fixated on trying to gerrymander and mess about so that the results were scuppered and the counts were stopped. And then he fixated on the Electoral College on the 16th of December. When that didn't go right, he then starts getting onto all the governors, and the latest one that we've not even got time to really cover is he phoned up Georgia and basically held them to ransom and said, please find 11,500 votes so I can flip it.
What absolutely amazes me though is for all this period of time is the fellow Republicans have let him get away with it.
Yeah, they have.
Let him get away with it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Let him get away with it.
Yeah.
And it's gotten so crazy that when it's not so crazy, you just ignore it.
Yeah.
it's another world of this Trump world, which people have bought into. And our country leaders have bought into this world as well.
Yeah.
And that's another show, another week.
You see, you can't keep feeding these people with these people that he's been targeting. He's got them at a point when they're angry with their lot in life, and then when he came along 5 years ago, they're angry because things are bad, things are difficult, the economy's hard, the jobs are bad, their prospects are not what they used to be, no. And this is not the first time that someone has come along and then, like Mussolini in Italy and Hitler in Germany, they come along and they go, "You're unhappy because of," and he blamed immigrants, and he started the whole thing. He gave them someone to hate, someone to blame, the same way that the Jewish race were used by Hitler. And this is what he did, and he stoked this and fed it, and he's fed it for years, and then finally, along the way, he's turned it into an us versus them, where it's not just the immigrants now; there is us and them on the right and left of politics. And then he even managed to make political a bloody pandemic, so that if you were wearing a mask, that meant you were a Democrat. It's the most bizarre period I've ever seen. But if you wonder what response he might give, or what response a president should give, and he didn't give, we've got a video here where you'll find out how Joe Biden coped with this and what he wanted to happen.
We have extensive team coverage tonight for you, starting with reaction from the very top. News 6's Eric Sandoval is here now with how the president and president-elect took very different tones today.
They really did, but we have to say both of them appeared to be watching and waiting, as we all were in this situation. President-elect Joe Biden was first, though, to a microphone. And, with many people holding Trump flags and MAGA hats, Biden immediately called on the president to say something and to get them to stop.
I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution.
Now, earlier today, President Trump did address what was a peaceful protest, saying that he would never concede the race. After the U.S. Capitol was taken over, though, former administration officials, even some inside the White House, pleaded for him to speak out and say something. He was silent, except for a couple tweets you see here, until moments after Biden's address. He tweeted a video. In it, he told the crowd of people at the U.S. Capitol that he loved them, and he also told them to go home. He also made unsubstantiated claims that the election had been stolen and that he understood how these demonstrators felt. Now, within the last 30 minutes, Twitter has removed the president's video. The message, when you click on it, says the tweet violated Twitter's rules. Now, the president-elect claimed that people storming the U.S. Capitol didn't represent the rest of America. Listen.
The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not reflect a true America, do not represent who we are. What we're seeing are a small number of extremists dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent. It's disorder. It's chaos. It borders on sedition. And it must end now. I call on this mob to pull back and allow the work of democracy to go forward. You've heard me say before in different contexts, the words of a president matter, no matter how good or bad that president is. At their best, the words of a president can inspire. At their worst, they can incite.
Something to keep in mind here. Biden will be inaugurated 2 weeks from today, usually in the exact same spot that these protests happened today. We're working right now to find out what kind of safety measures are going to be going into place ahead of that and ahead of what we expect to be more protests happening on that exact same.
It's what a president's supposed to carry on like. He's supposed to tell people to calm down. He's supposed to keep the temperature low.
Biden has a lot of criticism over this, I've been told, on this speech, and to me, he had to handle it in a certain way. He could have easily gone out kicking off and threatening this and threatening that, but he would have been as bad as Trump in some ways.
You would what he didn't want. And this is the thing where I get why people did want him to go on there and go, this guy's an asshole, why is he doing this, he's responsible for this, I want him locked up. The problem is, what if a pile of Democrats and left-leaning types formed a massive march and went down there to meet them? It would have been carnage, and no one's discussing that. No. It is a miracle that there wasn't the opposite end that turned up. It's a miracle that like 10,000 liberals didn't turn up with an attitude trying to stop the Trump guys doing this, the Trump supporters, and then you would have had an absolute carnage down there. It would have been absolutely unbelievable. They would have lost a life, would have been terrible.
What do you think his game was at? What do you think
I think he really honestly believed that they would change those votes, and anybody that's in England that doesn't understand in the UK what was going on yesterday, this is not a vote. This wasn't a vote. The electoral college votes got gained on by the results of the presidential election. Those results are then sent off to once all the late votes and all the overseas votes, everything's collated, the recounts and everything's finally over. It's sent to the electoral college, and on the 16th of December or whatever date they arrange, it was that this year, they then count them and issue a certificate. Those certificates are then sent to Washington, and then the Senate, who's always presided over by the Vice President, on a ceremony at the beginning of the year, usually 2 weeks before the inauguration, as a procedure, nothing more, just a procedure, opens the certificates and just makes a note of them and officially declares it over with. And makes it final. It's a finalised thing. There is no power for the Vice President, Mike Pence, to alter any of that, no matter how much pressure went on. And Trump couldn't understand this. And no matter how many times people said something, this numpty, chuckle-headed motherfucker didn't get what was going on. He was too stupid to not wind people up. He couldn't stop. And you even heard where he was on to Georgia with all the legal counsel there recording a phone call, which was an unbelievable phone call. If you hear it, it's like listening to a recording in a RICO trial for a mob boss, where he's saying, I want you to find 11,500 votes, and he said, I've won the state, I've won it by 500,000, so you need to find these votes so that and flip it. They can't flip it. Those certificates can't be altered. Once it was finalised in the Electoral College on the 16th of December, it was done. Thank you for playing. Game is over. And there was nothing that could be done. He, right up to the last minute, thought that they would flip this. And you pointed out a recording that I wasn't even aware of, where Rudy Giuliani phoned to tell him about this one. He phoned the wrong phone and left a voicemail.
He left a message about a certain senator. He's supposed to be talking to a certain senator. Leave a message. This is, oh, by the way, just breaking my dad text again.
Yes.
Your language. And he agreed. He agreed this week. So it's allowed.
Okay.
This week is a special one-off.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry.
Giuliani, who's allegedly an amazing politician, stroke former mayor, stroke lawyer, leaves the message on somebody else's phone, and I don't know whose phone number he'd left it on, but it's basically telling the senator what to do, how to delay it, because today there's more information coming. So if he can delay last night's procedure, it can change today, and he's got to do it. And it's like you said, mob boss.
Yeah.
It's like Sopranos.
He's tried everything.
Sopranos, isn't it?
The week.
But I think, and we've talked about it the other week, I sent a message to our fellow candidate, Tom in Alaska, who's a Republican through and through. What's happened to that party? Is that party
helped him with the social media? He is a proper Republican. I mean, an old school Republican as well, which is why I can't wait to discuss some of this with him. And he's a decent bloke, and that's all there is to it. Now, if you want to find out what what Trump was up to. Trump was obviously getting a lot of grief for this, and can I say, when he wound everybody up to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue to go to the Capitol building, he said, "I'll be right there with you." Him and his son were saying that, and he sort of kind of disappeared. I mean, we can assume was he in that bunker again?
Bunker, yeah.
Was he in the bunker again in the White House?
Yeah.
But then he surfaced to give this video.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
My goodness.
We love you.
We love you.
We love you. These are rioters. They're rioting. They've caused multiple deaths, as we'll get into later. I mean, these people, he wound them up, and the National Guard ended up called in. There could have been thousands of people dead. But we love you. This is the Charlottesville stuff again. Charlottesville, good people on either side. It was the Ku Klux Klan, for God's sakes. And he said that about them, the good people on both sides. These are not good people that marched down to the Capitol. And I've had a view on this show where I've been going, well, it's not fair to blame people who've been lied to because they've been manipulated into that. I don't feel so. You should feel sorry for some people who've been lied to about Brexit and voted for Brexit. You should feel sorry for some people who voted for Trump and supported him. But do you know what? All bets are off now. I do not feel sorry for anybody that's supporting Trump now. You have had more than enough evidence now. These people that marched on Capitol that day, yesterday, those people knew enough. They knew enough to know better than to do that. They desecrated that place. Nobody did that. You're hearing stories that they were urinating everywhere. They were taking pictures, and they were the shittest revolutionaries I've ever seen, because they were revolutionaries with selfie sticks.
I tell you what,
they were revolutionaries with selfie sticks. They were stopping in front of stuff. They were like, yeah, we're gonna just click. Well, have you ever seen anything like it? I mean, if they were any good, you'd have a bit of respect. There wasn't a Che Guevara amongst them.
No, but I'll tell you what, I did notice quite a bit. You mentioned it there. As I came in the building, they were taking photo opportunities of the thing. However, I noticed quite a lot of them, in fact, the majority, were quite overweight.
Yeah.
They weren't the fittest army, was it, to run down?
And can I what was the ratio? Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. What was the ratio of white to other ethnicities?
I didn't see one black guy.
I don't remember seeing a black guy. I don't remember seeing anybody.
If them guys were black, we'll talk about the policing of this later on.
Well, we're going to get into that later, aren't we?
Yeah.
But you can imagine a very different scenario if the makeup of the
the chubby gang, the chubby warriors.
Yeah,
there's someone there. There's a girl there.
They just
full get up, gas mask and the padding and all
cliche.
And at the back, and he's thinking, all your life you've been saving up and buying this equipment for that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, can I just say again? A lot of images, and you're going to see some images on this show from it, and you'll notice that again, that bloody flag again, that Confederate flag was being waved about left, right and centre. When do you ever see that flag other than a load of trouble, a load of violence, a load of trouble, or it's negative? It's the most negative symbol in the world. The minute you see it, you're dealing with a bunch of wankers. It's just, there's nothing positive about that. I mean, there are some negative connotations with our English flag, the St George Cross flag, because it's been hijacked a little bit by a National Front and by a lot of soccer hooligans, football hooligans. But it's not even close to that flag. That flag stands for slavery. It stands for traitors. It's a flag of traitors. Those people wanted to break up and destroy the United States of America, and these people are obsessed with carrying it about. And you know what? There's only one explanation. There's only one explanation why you want that flag around you, where you want to wave that flag, and it's because you don't like blacks. There isn't other possible explanation.
That's
there
true.
Isn't one.
But I want to sort of go back a little bit. I know we're not talking about anything else other than America today, but in the past few years, we've talked about the right wing growing across Europe, and I still think it's growing even more so in the EU right now. There's certain countries which are you're thinking, my goodness. I'm glad we're not in the EU in some ways, but in America, the extreme right wing, which we've been talking about tonight, who's caused all these issues and problems and nearly a coup, will that end? Will that be over with now, or is that the start of a new growth? Is this just the start?
Well, we're just got to. You see what you've got. The worry here with America and with this situation and Europe and everywhere is this. There might be some people watching this show going, why are they so obsessed with it? What's going on in America? Even though they probably wouldn't begrudge us covering this in such big detail because it's so dramatic. But normally, why is it so important? Well, I'll tell you why this is important. What's going on today, just as an example. There is still. Well, no, I'm going to get into NATO. There is still NATO and the Warsaw Pact. You've still got these two blocks there. You have got American troops. By far the biggest percentage of peacekeepers around the world in various locations around the world, where if you pulled them out of certain countries and certain stations and certain areas, there would be an invasion by another country. There is only peace in certain areas of the world because there are peacekeeping forces, which a lot of them are American forces, which is he's been trying to pull back. And thank God he's had enough people around him to actually talk him out of that, because they've talked him out of it by saying you might lose power and it'll look bad for you. But, for example, if you pull a lot of troops out of the Korean area, North Korea will just invade South Korea and we'll have a nuclear war. That's why if a coup happened in America and America ended up, that distracted, they had to deal with an actual civil war again. Well, their war would spread all around the world, and Russia would not just leave it at the Crimea area. They would then take a push. North Korea would take a push. The next minute, there's nuclear weapons being chucked about. This is serious. If America gets destabilised to the point where there is an actual coup, where society starts to fall apart a little bit, like if it had got much worse than yesterday was the brink. You get much worse than that. If the National Guard had got in, some other people had got in, 10,000 people might have ended up getting shot and killed during the course of a couple of days of rioting in the capital if it got out of control. Next minute, you've got curfews all around the country. That could have spiralled out of control. It is a miracle that yesterday so few people were hurt and it stopped where it did.
I want to bring this to the board, really. Well, it all starts. You look at them people yesterday. What do they not believe in, or what do they believe in? They believe that the virus is a hoax.
They do, and hence no masks, and hence they're all going to get arrested for what they've done. New World Order
going on.
They do.
They believe certain people are paedophiles.
Yeah, they do.
He goes, have you heard that story before? Have you heard that? If you listen to David Icke once or twice, you may have heard that story before. And you've got to think, even in a country like this, where we sort of dismiss people as idiots, COVID idiots. Yeah. COVID idiots.
Yeah.
But what are they buying into? They're buying into the world of the right-wing rhetoric, which seems to work for followers.
Yeah, it works.
And they buy into this bullshit.
Because it makes them think, what is the one thing? We got a letter there, one person having a go at us, what's it? It's sheep we're up against, was his handle. That's the comment. The sheep thing. It's about we have more information than you. It gives our boring lives a little bit more excitement because we feel that we understand the world better than everybody else. It's a lot of people with chips on the shoulders who aren't that bright.
And people making money.
Yeah, and people are making money and they are being exploited. It's just sad, really. And one other aspect, we're looking at this from our point of view, the events of yesterday, this riot/coup attempt, and you've got obviously the Democrats. We know where they stood. You've got Trump, you know where he stands, and it'd be nice we can have a look now at what the Conservatives, the group, the Lincoln Project. There was one particular lady who's in the head of the Lincoln Project, at the very head, and she had a lot of choice words to say about this, and it gives you a really good insight what old school conservatives actually think about what went on yesterday.
That video was there are fine people on both sides on steroids. He literally said, "We love you."
Yes, correct.
He called them patriots, for fuck's sake. These
we
aren't
understand
patriots.
you. We love you.
Right. These are not patriots. These people are anarchists. They're traitors. They're insurrectionists. They're seditionists. There are a whole lot of ists, but patriots sure as hell is not in that long list of things, okay? This is insanity. This is dangerous, and people have died today. A woman was shot inside the Capitol during this melee, and we have the video of that, actually. I'm going to show it in a second. And she has died. There is blood that has actually been spilled because of this bastard and
That's
what
right.
he has incited.
That's right.
And all these people who are out here still trying to justify this and enable this, this blood is on their hands. And I've got news for you. If this keeps up, there's going to be more of it. Let's take a look at the video that from earlier today, where Donald Trump instructs his people, these seditionist bastards, to go to the Capitol. Let's take a listen.
We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol, but we're going to try and give our Republicans the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country.
That is just
It's pure incitement. It was pure incitement.
And he wasn't the only one. He wasn't the only one, okay? His coked up freak of a son, Don Jr., went out there and told people to go out there and show them, those Republicans that aren't on their side to, we're going to show them.
Right.
Rudy Giuliani went out there and called for, what did he call it, Rick? Giuliani?
Trial by combat.
Trial by combat.
Trial
okay?
by combat. What are you going to do? Go jousting with people?
Yeah. What is this? These are sick fantasies. These wannabe fascists, these incels that hate women, that have little pit dicks, that run around with their guns because they are such insecure men that this makes them feel good about themselves. They're part of something, and they join on with they lob onto Donald Trump as someone that they find to be a masculine figure of authority, who's the biggest coward out there, talking about, we're going to march down. He was in his bunker. I've got news for you. He wasn't marching down anywhere. He looks down on most of them anyway as being underlings. And this is what these people are fighting for. And to every single Republican that was going to go to that House floor today and dispute this election and stand with Donald Trump and his conspiracy theories and the lies and the incitement of this, shame on you. Every single one of you are unfit for office. The Republican Party should be dead today. They should be embarrassed to ever be a party again after what they have been a part of. They are just as responsible for this as Donald Trump. Donald Trump, we know who he is. We've known who he was. But it's every single one of those people, the Ted Cruzes and the Josh Hawleys, the Harvard and Yale educated members of Congress, the Marco Rubios and his freaking Bible quoting nonsense, and all of the other ones, Jim Jordan and all of these people who know better. They know better. And they sat there and enabled this bastard for 4 years. And it was inevitable, as you said, Rick, that this would come to this. We were almost there. We're 2 weeks away, literally, from inauguration. We thought we could get through this without any more blood being spilled. It's bad enough that 360,000 Americans are dead from a pandemic because this sociopath doesn't care about life and didn't care about people and was too worried about his reelection and thought somehow that ignoring that would get him reelected. But here we are now with blood in the streets before he leaves. And I'm telling you, everyone who was watching this, you make note of who those people were, where they have stood throughout this entire thing. And if they represent you, I hope through hell or high water, you make sure not one of them ever sees elected office again.
See, that's
strong
right-wing woman, and she's right-wing. I mean, her politics would horrify me, but I can't knock her. She's a fighter, and she's very good at summing up what everybody was thinking. But that's the Conservatives for you. They are as disgusted with this as the Democrats. Proper Conservatives, not these boot-kicking toads that he's these chuckleheads that he's surrounded himself with. And it backfired as well, because all this failed. You started with Ted Cruz is the only real person who got up to say his piece and stick up for Donald Trump and say that it was fraud and that he should really be the president. And then all of a sudden it all caved in. And it's left him looking like holding the bag. I mean, Ted Cruz does not look great today. Ted Cruz looks weak and he looks pathetic.
Just like he did when Trump handled him so well 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Just kicked him aside.
Well,
and now he's supporting Trump.
He's a cuckold. He took the piss out of his wife. Trump put a picture of Ted Cruz's wife, Heidi. He picked an unflattering picture where she was pulling her face, looking very angry and didn't look great. And we've all made those pictures. We've all had pictures taken when we're screaming and in a bad mood, looking a bit weird. And he picked one of them and then put one of the model shots of Melania up there and basically said, "Have you seen what a dog he's married to?" And that would be it with most people. He said your wife was a dog. He said your wife was a dog, that he wouldn't touch you with a barge pole. And then within 6 weeks he was fundraising for him. When he gave up and Trump got the nomination, he started fundraising, and now he's gone and thrown himself at the feet of him, all in the hope that that he will get Trump's voters in 2024. I've got news for you, Ted. You were never going to get him, mate, you fucking dickhead. You were never going to get him. He will not let anybody have them voters other than either him or his daughter or one of his idiot jaguar hunting sons.
We've got to move. The show's 20 minutes left for the show, but we've got to show this video for you. And do you want to describe what's going on?
Well, the best thing here is these people that arrived down there. We've got some problems with the policing that we're going to move on to. We've got problems with the policing we're going to move on to. But the amount of the people that turned up there were treated slightly different from everybody else, and there seems to be a little bit of weird detachment and entitlement amongst our revolutionaries.
Ma'am, what happened to you?
I got maced.
You got maced?
By the police.
And what happened? You were trying to go inside the Capitol?
I made it like a foot inside and they pushed me out and they maced me.
What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Elizabeth. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee.
And why did you want to go in?
We're storming the Capitol. It's a revolution.
Thank you.
Can you believe it? Can you believe that?
I'm
robbing a bank and someone's hit me for trying to get in there. It just goes on and on.
I mean, did Che Guevara carry on like this when they were taking Cuba? Someone spat at me. I mean, what was she expecting?
You're a criminal.
Yeah, but this is the thing. There was almost a sense of entitlement there. Like, what's going on? It's a revolution. My God, like I said, it was a revolution with selfie sticks. It was the most pathetic attempt. And, even though what they did was horrendous, the beginning of it, you saw them walking in, and after smashing all the windows, getting inside, they just started taking selfies. They're the most brainless people in the world. They are as stupid and brainless as the guy that they've modelled themselves on, their glorious leader. That's the thing, he's attracted them. But yeah, this sense of entitlement, like I say, shall we say, had she been not white, as you noticed, Elizabeth from wherever she said she was from.
Knoxville.
Yeah, she was a white lady, and she's complained. She's got maced at the beginning of her revolution, trying to storm the Capitol building. And let's just say, I have a funny feeling it wouldn't have been the same if she'd have been a different skin colour. I think everybody's aware of that, and there have been some real issues mentioned that we'll show a video on the aspects of this where it really falls down the policing. A lot of complaints about that, and we can have a chat about that right after this.
I think a lot of us have some questions, a lot of questions, not just for Donald Trump. I've got no questions for Donald Trump. He's an insurrectionist. There are no questions. He should be arrested today. He should be sent to jail today for insurrection against the United States of America. But I do wonder this morning why they weren't better prepared for this. Why weren't the Capitol Hill police better prepared for this? Why wasn't the city of Washington, D.C. better prepared for this? Why wasn't the National Guard better prepared for this? Why weren't law enforcement agencies all across the region better prepared for an invasion against the People's House, against the world's greatest deliberative body? And for those of you who have never been up on the Capitol, I spent quite a bit of time there. And even as a member of Congress, I had to have my ID to get in. If I walked across an adjoining street when no cars were on that street, but I didn't have a walk sign, Capitol Hill police would scream at the top of their lungs and tell us all to get back on the sidewalk. When I was walking to a State of the Union address across the street from the Capitol, 5 Capitol Hill police started screaming at me, telling me I had to clear the area. And yet, yesterday we saw some of these same Capitol Hill police officers, who, by the way, I never complained when they were tough. I want them to be tough. I want them to protect the People's House. Yesterday, we see them patting terrorists on the back. We see them taking selfies with people who are committing an insurrection against the United States of America, politely opening the door for terrorists who had scrawled on the door, "Murder the media," who had broken through this glass, letting them just walk through, letting these Trump supporters walk through freely and politely opening doors to the insurrectionists, and then letting the terrorists walk out of the same Capitol they had laid siege to and threatened the lives of members of the House and members of the Senate who they said they were coming to get, including Mike Pence. There has to be an investigation. How many of these Capitol Hill cops are members of Donald Trump's cult? How many?
It is a cult.
How many allowed this to happen? And I do want to know, where the hell were the D.C. police? Where the hell was how did this happen? This hasn't happened since the War of 1812, when the British stormed Washington, D.C. It's obvious this was coming. Donald Trump promised this day was coming. He and his golf caddy, Dan Scavino, were putting out videos saying it was going to be wild. January 6th was going to be wild. We were warned that January 6th was going to be a dangerous day, not just in social media, not just in the media, but in our lives. People would come up to me and ask, what do you think is going to happen on January the 6th? Well, what happened was the Capitol Hill police weren't ready. The DC police weren't ready. The National Guard wasn't ready. Nobody was ready.
Or was it okay because they are white? I just have to ask.
Oh, my God. Oh, please. Please.
Because
please. No,
I don't think this would have happened with Black Lives Matters protesters.
Let me tell you something. We don't have to even go there. If these insurrectionists were black, they would have been shot in the face.
Shot in the face.
But they would have been. They would have been. He's 100% correct.
We've got our man in New York, Joe, and I was talking to him last night as this was developing. And today they spoke to the Sergeant Benevolent Association, and they came up with an official statement about their views on what had gone on with the police department. Now, I don't know if you remember, but a couple of weeks back we talked about them with Joe, and he said they are in Donald Trump's pocket because he paid so much money into them. Bit of cash.
Yeah.
So their statement was, today's activities can be contrasted by the fact that no fires were started, no looting of innocent businesses, no destruction of private property, and no city was seized. Only government property was destroyed. So they're happy. They're okay.
Okay, excuse me. The Capitol building
wasn't destroyed.
The Capitol building is made of marble.
Yeah.
What were you going to set on fire?
Well, like they said in that video,
I just wondered.
If it was a blackface there, they would have been shot.
Yeah, they would have been. They would have just gone straight in, and they would have been tear gassing everybody in sight. Anybody that even looked at them sideways or went or resisted would have been cuffed, beat up, put in the vat. And if anybody had have raised a fist to them, they'd have been shot. And that's the thing. You know what would have happened, and for some reason there were stories at the beginning of this.
There's another story here, isn't there?
Yeah, there was. The stories started to leak out as this progressed on. For the first hour, it seemed like they were just overrun, and that these people were getting in, and there weren't enough people there, which is weird because all week Trump has been asking them to go down there on the 6th to put pressure on Mike Pence to make him do the right thing, and so any numpty would have known that this was going to happen. So that was surprising. But then you hear stories, and then you see pictures leaking out where they're having selfies taken with the police
inside the building.
Then you hear that because they were wanting to get in there, rather than let them smash the doors down, they opened the doors and let them in at one point. Yeah. So then, when you saw images in the footage where they're walking in up a corridor, that I believe they were let in by a couple of policemen who went, well, it's better than them kicking the door down and doing loads of damage.
But the numbers of police on those steps is apparently between 60 and 80 police.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I know.
For a few thousand people.
Yeah, I know. There's an army there tonight.
You have more at a gig or a football match.
There is more. There's an army there tonight. Yeah, because it's all come on top, and I mean, you've got to be aware that there is overlying that's been brought in is the National Guard. That is literally the army that will come and subjugate any insurrection, and they're there to keep order on the mainland. The home guard of the situation. You've got the Capitol Police and the DC Police. So you've got police. It's very much like Vatican City, where you've got the Vatican have their own police and their own little like mini country within a country. Then you've got the Rome police. Here you've got police that are supposed to be protecting the Capitol buildings because they're the seat of government. Yeah. We have the same, by the way, in Parliament.
Yes,
we have police that are just looking after
in
Parliament.
my opinion, there's another story that will develop over the next few weeks.
Yes.
Just like Trump now will be kicked off Twitter, his main output.
Well, he got 12 hours suspension because of the response that he gave.
Yeah.
The response that he gave was terrible.
Facebook have now banned him indefinitely. So will Twitter follow?
They say it's for 2 weeks until after.
No, indefinitely.
They said indefinitely, but most people are saying that this is them just kicking the can down the road. They're just suspending him until after the inauguration so that he can't cause any problems between now and then.
Isn't it a stupid situation where that makes the news? That when there's a possible coup going on in the United States, and what's talking about is social media.
Yeah, but the coup was he started the coup with social media. A lot of these people came because they read it on social media.
So is it time to get rid of social media?
Yeah, I'll tell you something. It's time to regulate. I'll be absolutely honest now. Everybody listening, you might be horrified. It's time now. We have to regulate social media. It is dangerous. It's out of control. It needs to be reined in. When this can happen in a modern civilized society, you're allowing the things to escalate wildly out of control that don't need to be, and it's all based on false information. Now, Mark Zuckerberg can appear in front of all these committees all he wants to, and he can say, it's not for us, we've got freedom of speech, we don't want to start censoring people. Well, no, you should not allow things that you know to be false.
People will say freedom this and freedom that.
It's not freedom.
They do it now. They're marching
lies.
in Manchester. They want to do another march, by the way, this weekend.
Do they?
Well, lockdown's on.
Arrest them, shoot them,
so
arrest them,
our
lock them
freedom's
up.
been taken away.
They're killing people.
I mean, what do you use Twitter for and Facebook? Most people, what do you use it for?
Friendly, harmless, innocuous things. Yeah. Like, I've got a weird show that I do with this weird guy. Please watch it. Stuff like that. Yeah. You know.
You calling me weird? You're calling me weird?
I don't know. Did I say
of
that?
all people.
Did I say of all people?
Of all people.
All people.
Let's carry on.
Anyway, yeah, I'm just saying it's gone too far, and at the end of the day, this is dangerous. It's dangerous. People are getting killed. People are literally getting killed.
Blood on the hands.
Yeah, there is not, and we're going to deal with the aftermath in a minute, where we're up to now, and sort of bring it up to date. But I mean, as the end result of this, by the way, they didn't get what they wanted. This insurrection, failed coup, whatever you want to call it, selfie stick revolution. It ended, as you're going to see, with Biden winning.
The US Congress has formally confirmed that Joe Biden will be the next president of the United States. Presided over by Vice President Mike Pence, whom Donald Trump insisted could overturn the result. A joint session of the House of Representatives and the Senate gathered in the early hours of the morning, Washington time. This is more than 12 hours after being forced to run and hide as armed rioters stormed the US Capitol building. But leaders from both sides pressed on once the building was secure, leading to this moment a short time ago.
The whole number of electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes. The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 306 votes. Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana has received 232 votes. The announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected President and Vice President of the United States, each for the term beginning on the 20th day of January, 2021, and shall be entered together with the list of the votes on the journals of the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Now, although he's been banned from social media, President Donald Trump has released a statement on the electoral certification through White House Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino. It says, even though I totally disagree with the outcome of the election and the facts bear me out, nevertheless, there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. I have always said we would continue our fight to ensure that only legal votes were counted. While this represents the end of the greatest first term in presidential history, it's only the beginning of our fight to make America great again. That is President Donald Trump, their statement via White House Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino.
So he's basically said that if you pick up on that, he said it's the greatest, it's the end of the greatest first term. So he's literally saying there, so sorry, Mr. Ted Cruz, and all of you guys who were hoping to get all these Trump followers and all the 70 million votes that he got. I'm sorry, he's just said he's running again. He's running again in 2024. He wants to, unless he's in prison for the tax case that's brewing in New York, which is a state case, which even if he gives himself a pardon and walks out with a pocket pardon ready for a rainy day, it doesn't work with a state prosecution, and he's up for tax evasion. Ivanka is up for taking money out of the inauguration fund. Which she spent on doing a house up. They really are vile, aren't they? I mean, they are just a mucky bunch of crooks.
We've got some comments, Mike.
We have indeed, yeah. Stephen Blackmore saying, Happy New Year, guys. My God, what an insane start it has been. I can't agree more. Nick is saying 2020 was the hors d'oeuvre for this decade. Yeah, I'm hoping not, but it's
going to be wonderful later on.
I hope so. I hope the second half of this year is a bit better. Robert Dole saying, hi guys, what an insane few weeks. Will Tom be on tonight? No, Tom, we're going to try and get him on next week because we do want these comments. So I think he is obviously, because he's involved with Donald Trump and he's involved in all that campaign and social media. I would imagine he's got his hands full right now, and we didn't want to hassle him tonight. Next week we'll catch
he's not
up
replied.
With him.
I sent a message.
I know this is it. We'll get to the bottom of how he's fought. I don't know. Is this the point? Time. Is this the point where he turns around and says, "Whoopsie"? I don't know. Surely he can't defend Trump's actions. Unfortunately, he'll probably blindly defend the actions in the Capitol as he always seems to do. I'm hoping not, but we'll find out. I have a funny feeling you might be right. Nick's saying 4 dead from last night. We're actually going to get into that now because most people think there's just one lady that died. It was a bit worse. Republicans conducted an 18-month investigation into the 4 who died in Libya. Right, yeah, the Republicans. This is all crazy, isn't it? Mark Parry's saying, so they need to protect themselves from themselves as if they weren't hooked on paranoia and guns enough before. Unfortunately, we'll probably be the same if we had a similar gun culture. Well, I mean, we did have guns, but we never had a gun culture like that because, I mean, I was a gun owner. There were gun owners around, but there weren't many of us.
The Peakers had them.
Well, yeah,
Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, they were a bit crap, that weren't they? They were a bit shit, you know. They were very old-fashioned, and that's also saying surely raising general education and intelligence level is needed as much as censorship. Censorship is treating the symptoms, not the cause. Actually, you see. The problem is that education's long term. I just think we're in. I might not be right about this, but I just think that we're in a bit of a bind right now, and I think there's a short term gap. I think there needs to be certainly some emergency measures taken just to curb some of this disinformation that's poisoning people to the point where they're doing crazy shit like this. I mean, the lies that were peddled, that were allowed to be freely peddled. It's great
what they're doing to it when they don't agree with something. It's fake.
I
fake
know.
news. They don't agree
fake
and they
news.
say it again and say it again and say it again. And then people believe it.
Fake news is the ultimate weapon. All you've got to do is when people are confronting you with stuff that breaks down some belief that you've got, you just got fake news, fake news, fake news, and you just wave it all away. Yeah. It's madness. It's madness.
We're running out of time
Modo's
fast,
saying,
Mike.
one last one.
Yeah.
Modo's saying, great show tonight, lads. On form revolutionaries with selfie sticks. Brilliant headline. Yeah, sadly, I wish it was a joke. It's absolute madness, and anyone who watches the footage, it's like a bizarre black comedy. Although I don't think it's very funny for the people in the that you're going to hear about in the next video.
Can I just add something to this whole thing, though? Before I was talking about, we were talking about calling them the chubby army and all that sort of. There's knobheads like that here in the UK.
Yeah, they are.
And there's plenty of them.
It just takes someone to mobilise them. I mean, at the end of the day, these people were always there in the States, and and somebody came and gave them something to get excited for, banded them together, and they made their otherwise repugnant views that they were holding very quiet and very under the table because they knew they wouldn't be regarded wisely or lovingly in polite society. They had to keep quiet to a certain degree, and Trump said, "Nah, be yourself." So, what?
By the way, I was thinking about our favourite politician who started all Brexit, Nigel. I wonder what he's thinking.
Well, no. Do you know what? I think even he's like, oh shit.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh, I do. I think this is a bit too
much. I'd love to see his next interview.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out.
Nigel Farage,
anyway,
where are you?
So let's see how this is going now as we head into the final stretch. What we hope is the final stretch of this, although we're not out of the woods yet.
Vaughn, I don't mean to sound anything but serious. Any day you have a death toll inside the U.S. Capitol is a serious and history-making day for all the wrong reasons. We have a death toll of 4 after this violence today.
Yeah, good evening, Brian. This news comes from D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser holding a press conference in just the last few minutes. With the news, we knew of the one death that took place inside the Capitol, a woman who was shot apparently by police. But now there are 3 additional deaths that the D.C. is reporting. These were 3 medical emergency deaths here on the Capitol grounds. The scene outside here in Washington, D.C. right now, here at about 11:30 at night, Brian, is one of stark silence. D.C. is past curfew that was implemented at 6 o'clock, and over the next 2 hours, law enforcement agencies, Capitol Police, D.C. Metropolitan Police, FBI, the National Guard, all came in here and systematically pushed back the folks who here had gathered, those insurgents that were inside the Capitol and those who were here on the outskirts here. To kind of give you an idea of where we are, this insurgents were essentially pushed down here. This is the start of Pennsylvania Avenue from the Capitol here. And, you know, for folks kind of getting a gist of what they saw today, you saw that scaffolding that was set up for Inauguration Day, which was overtaken by thousands. At that point, that is where Joe Biden would be slated to be inaugurated, and it's at that point that typically in a normal year that the inaugural parade stretches right down here, down Pennsylvania Avenue. And what you can see here is what you should expect to see now, at least according to the mayor, Bowser, that this is Pennsylvania Avenue. About 1 mile down the road from there, Brian, is where folks would run directly into the White House. The mayor also announced tonight that there were, we should note, just 52 arrests here in Washington, D.C. 14 of those were for crossing police lines, simple assault, some for individuals carrying firearms without license. The rest of them were for curfew related violations. Again, just 52 arrests here. And when you saw hundreds of individuals storm the U.S. Capitol, we should note the mayor also saying here in just these last 20 minutes, though, that they will, over the coming days, be putting out alerts with photographs of individuals who had entered the Capitol. They're asking the public for help, believing that those individuals who went inside the Capitol breaking federal law should be held to account. We should also note that there were at least 14 other medical emergency transports or fire transports here in Washington, D.C. You said it. It's a sad day when we're talking about deaths on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol. But again, at least 4 deaths that we're aware of at this time here on the U.S. Capitol here on this January 6th, 2021, Brian.
There we have it, 4 deaths.
4 deaths, so it's not just the one, it's 4. Yeah. I think that's a miracle, by the way. That is a miracle with what could have happened. But it is, they've now got an army presence there, which is bizarre. They didn't have that when they were fully aware that there was going to be a march into the capital area on the 6th to demonstrate about this.
You've got to
this
say yourself, like I said before, there is a story there. Another story, has someone tipped somebody off? So
who would maybe be able to interfere behind the scenes and make sure there weren't enough people around the capital area? I wonder.
There's we've said many times here, and we've been lambasted by Tom in Alaska. We've mentioned the police training, the police corruption, which is clear. It's absolutely clear. I mean, I said before, New York had, a certain fund had lots of money put in by Trump, so they react in a certain way. The police in America, not all states, not all policemen, that's for sure, but it talks about training them and training them to a standard.
Yeah, there's some bad.
It's a big country.
Yeah, there's some very, very, very bad cops, very corrupt cops. There's some really great ones. But
absolutely.
But they do need weeding out. And as a follow-on to this, as we were coming on air, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, has said the 25th Amendment, and if anyone doesn't know what that is the provision for if suddenly you have a leader who's incapacitated, well, not just nuts, he might be mentally incapacitated, he might have a stroke, he might not be able to do the job properly, but wants to carry on and it's not in the best interest of the country, the Vice President can meet with the Cabinet and they can decide to invoke Article 25, that's the 25th Amendment, and then it's got to be agreed to remove him by 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate. And so it's quite a high bar threshold that. Now, they're also talking about, she's saying, Nancy Pelosi, the head of the Democrats, who's also the Speaker, and who's been re-elected Speaker again, even though she's older than Mum Ra and really needs mummifying. She has said, if you don't invoke if you don't invoke the 25th Amendment, then we will impeach him. Is she serious? It's going to play out over the next couple of days. There are a lot of people very nervous. There's only 13 days to go. But with him, 13 days is a very long time.
And on that note, we'll say our goodbyes. We'll see you next week. We're back for this year. Looking forward to it. And a big thank you as well to everyone who has subscribed. But tell your friends, get more people to subscribe, please. It helps us a bit. And thank you again, Mike.
Yeah, and just one last one. A lot of people going through a lot of hardship in the UK at the moment with the lockdown, and I just want to appeal. I'm in the Samaritans, and we are wanting to get as many people on board to join up and help. We're in a dire strait at the moment. There is not enough people to answer the phone calls. If you can be there for one night where someone rings up and they don't do something stupid, that is the best feeling in the world when you go home knowing that you've helped that person get through that night and they're going to have a life and get on with something. There's nothing better than that. All you've got to do is get in touch with your local Samaritans. Sorry to hijack the end of the show for something like that, but please try and help. The Samaritans need us. There's only so many of us and we do need help.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching. I'm impressed. You've passed the IQ test and got this far, so let's press that button to do the last thing that helps us. It's got subscribe on it, you can't miss it, and please ring the bell for notifications of future videos.